Understanding post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. It is quite important to understand what PTSD is, what causes it, who suffers from it, and how it can be treated effectively. It's important to understand that each and every one of us can be affected by PTSD. There are a lot of myths and misunderstandings around post-traumatic stress disorder and who suffer from its potentially devastating effects. But each and every one of us can be in a place where we have layers of traumas that we are healing from. Post-traumatic stress disorder is where you or somebody close to you is in a near-death, life-threatening situation, and then day-to-day triggers take you back to that event, even though the event's in your past. You might have flashbacks, nightmares, distressing physiological symptoms of like concentration memory problems, heart palpitations, panic attacks, anxiety, mind racing, feeling flustered, feeling overwhelmed, irritated, mood swings, feeling unstable. There's a lot of symptoms that come with PTSD, and like I said, there can be different layers of it. A sudden death, a car accident. Many of us don't realize that PTSD can affect each and every one of us. What typically comes to mind when most of us think about PTSD is a member of the military, back home, now after active duty, haunted by their wartime experiences. But virtually anyone could suffer from PTSD. Any one of us, at any time, could suffer and witness firsthand life-threatening trauma. You or somebody close to you in a near-death, life-threatening situation, being abused, seeing someone get abused, seeing someone get murdered, a natural disaster, being in a pandemic, having a sudden change of somebody dying suddenly without expectations. And, the aftermath of experiencing or witnessing a life-threatening trauma is where PTSD takes root. PTSD initiates with a traumatic experience or exposure to an actual or threatened sudden death or harm of death, serious injury or violent sexual assault or violent assault, or serious injury, like unexpected death of a loved one. This involves witnessing or experiencing a traumatic, life-threatening event. Traumatic, life-threatening situations can also include natural disasters, serious industrial, home, recreational, or transportation, plane, car, or other vehicle accidents, physical or sexual assault, or combat or war zone exposure. It is possible to experience PTSD upon learning that an accidental or intentional traumatic event has happened to someone close to us, like a friend or family member. Further, individuals such as first responders and police officers are exposed by the line of duty they have to many traumatic events that can sometimes cause them PTSD. There is also an accumulated effect of being in those type of situations that can cause a layer of PTSD. After a trauma, it is perfectly normal for people to feel natural, fright and fear and scared feelings and traumatized by something that was life-threatening. In the first few months following an experience, it's a stress disorder of a traumatic event. People move through a whole range of emotions and symptoms. They vividly replay and relive the event, possibly feeling a great deal of unease and fear. But eventually, most people recover from these symptoms and move on from their trauma. For those who suffer from PTSD, these symptoms persist beyond a few months. For some, PTSD symptoms can show up later in life, way after the traumatic event happened. But once it comes, you have to deal with it. Many times you have flashbacks and nightmares that take you back to an incident, and day-to-day triggers start taking you back to something that you have not processed and worked through. Troubling and prolonged symptoms. People who suffer from PTSD can experience a number of disturbing and distressing symptoms. It is important to recognize how PTSD prevents one from living a full and enjoyable life. Day-to-day activities they used to do simply now feel heavy, overwhelming, and they feel unable to cope with day-to-day tasks or stresses or life functioning responsibilities. They may experience flashbacks, in some instances lose touch with the present, feel depersonalized, dissociated, and feel as if they're always in constant threat or danger. They may suffer from momentarily or prolonged distress when it comes to exposure to a trigger, that is a reminder of their trauma. Triggers can include something simple like a sound, an odor, a color, a sight, anything that reminds them of some element of their traumatic event. These triggers might also set off distressing psychological reactions. People who suffer from PTSD find themselves avoiding triggers, suppressing memories, pushing through with distress, fighting the thoughts, denying things, avoiding things, and they try not to feel things related to their trauma. But by pushing things aside, sooner or later things bubble up. They may suffer from associative amnesia, but sooner or later little triggers will take them back to having them have little flashbacks or nightmares. They might start having strong negative self-beliefs, feel as if they're too weak or damaged, or understand that maybe their fatigue is just a normal fatigue of like having low blood sugar or not enough B vitamins, but they don't realize the fatigue is coming from an emotional place, emotional fatigue. And they sometimes worry about wondering if they're, losing their mind or not feeling in control of their life. They may find themselves hypervigilant, easily startled, and not able to trust people. They start believing as if they're unsafe in the world. And many times they try to hide their symptoms because they're ashamed of it versus feeling like they'll be supported through it. Many times it is important to acknowledge our symptoms in order to get the treatment. As many times these people are having difficulty concentrating, sleeping. They may blame themselves for their trauma. They may experience persistent and overpowering anger, fear, shame, or guilt, or may engage in negative interactions involving verbal or physical aggression towards themselves or others. These people can sometimes feel isolated, alone in their suffering and detached from other people, and unable to enjoy things they used to enjoy, bringing in some depression symptoms. They may also engage in risky behaviors or sometimes using substances to numb the feelings and sensations that come about. These symptoms can emerge over time and persist if they're left untreated. The good news is we can effectively treat PTSD. First step to knowledge and treatment is awareness, being aware of these symptoms and acknowledging professions or people that have gone through different layers of PTSD is the first thing we need to do. We need to recognize our symptoms in order to take charge of ourselves and be healthier. It is no time like the present. As with any mental health condition, we need to replace stigma, myths, and ignorance with knowledge, compassion, and the ability to recognize symptoms is the first step to finding help. There are highly effective treatments out there, and if you or somebody close to you is suffering from PTSD symptoms, it is no time like the present to begin to heal and create a healthier, happier future. Let's take a mindful moment right now. Reflect on your own life. Are there significant events that you've gone through that feel traumatizing, that you have flashbacks or nightmares of, or sometimes wonder why you keep thinking about certain things that have happened in the past? Could be a sudden death, seeing someone get abused, being in a natural disaster. 9/11 caused many people PTSD or fear by generalized anxiety. Reflect on your own life right now. Are there things that you might want to acknowledge on a physical front or an emotional front that you deny that needs to be treated? Let's take a mindful moment and have compassion. Life is quite hard and comes with a lot of symptoms and struggles. Let's take a mindful moment right now to look at, are there things that come up in my head unconsciously, maybe in dreams, or flashbacks throughout the day that maybe I need to pay more attention to? Let's take this mindful moment and have compassion to breathe and reflect on our life and the symptoms we have. Let's take a deep inhale in and breathe out. Another inhale and exhale. And allow yourself to deepen into your self-awareness of symptoms, sensations, and experiences that maybe you've gone through that need more attention. If your mind tends to wander, take a deep breath in and out and gently bring it back. And allow yourself to breathe and focus and just reflect on your life again. As I gently welcome you back from this mindful moment, remember, no time like the present. As with every mental health condition, it's important for us right now to take charge, replace stigma, myths, and ignorance with knowledge, compassion, and the ability to recognize symptoms so that we can better our own lives and also help people that we love around us to seek the treatment they need to be better. There are highly effective treatments available, and if you or somebody close to you is having any PTSD symptoms, it's important for you to begin to heal and create a healthier, happier future. Talk to your friends, family members, seek out the help of a primary care physician, talk to your EAP insurance provider, or connect with one of the resources in the list that I provide in the article. Seeking treatment for PTSD means you taking charge of your symptoms. Understand the causes and recognize the symptoms of PTSD as a first step to healing. If you believe that someone you know is suffering from it, provide them with resources, help, and effective treatments. There are things available to help you work through whatever's bubbling up and needs to be addressed. Confide in a trusted friend or family member who can support you and connect you with resources if you feel overwhelmed and tired and unable to do so. Talk to your doctor or primary care physician. They oftentimes are very helpful in guiding you in the right direction. Seek help from your insurance provider if you are an employee with EAP. Connect with one of the many PTSD resources across the world, across Canada. Googling or using your search engines online, many times there's a lot of beautiful resources available at our fingertips. Take charge to read a little bit to understand the symptoms so that you know what you need to treat and where you go for the treatments that are available. And there are treatments available.